If you are seeing this film right now, that means that I did it. I was able to push through every single trial that was thrown my way these last 3.5 years. I've been a tattoo artist now for 15 years, and I've owned a shop about 13 and a half years of that time, 8 of which were in Franklin, Indiana. This entire documentary started out as me just moving haunted, or more accurately put, attached items from the back of the shop to my old house. I'm not attempting to be dramatic when I say this, but I do not feel like this house wanted me to make this film. The people in this film sat down on their own accord. There was no script. I didn't coach anyone. Much of which they said I discovered as I was filming, connecting my own dots, making this story bigger and bigger. It really became something different. So what you see is what they saw, and what they experienced was. As much as we try to portray Franklin to be something beautiful, which it is, it's because the real beauty starts on the inside. And the darkness of Franklin, I believe, is on the inside as well. I'm not the only one who's had experiences at the shop. The location was always an active location from the moment I walked in the door. For 3 months, I painted that place black. And I didn't have any oddity in there, no antiques. It was just me, some friends, and some tools. And we would see shadow people, hear voices, footsteps. It was apparent to me right away that it was an active location, right from the beginning. And then I bring in all my stuff. I didn't want to not bring out your friend.
I had nightmares about her last night. Yeah, I don't look at her. I don't even make any kind of eye contact. So I always wanted a baby secrets. I had let Adam know that while Adam was picking a farmhouse a few years ago, he had found me one. This is Baby Secrets next to me. This is the actual Baby Secrets that Adam found in the farmhouse. And I was so excited to have her. I ended up taking her home, and I never really moved her from the spot that I left her in when I brought her home. Weird things started happening. I started seeing these images in my head of this slug lady that would crawl in this strange motion at me. And I didn't really put it together that it would be Baby Secrets at the time. Weird things would happen, like I had a lamp that was sitting in a room by itself where it had fallen and it broke just out of nowhere. I had come to the shop and I'd talked to Adam about it. We were kind of putting pieces together that maybe it could be Baby Secrets. When I did end up bringing the doll to Adam, everything had stopped. The images in my mind had stopped. Anything moving around the house, falling over, breaking, all of that stopped when I brought Baby Secrets into the shop. I hate this doll. I hate this doll.
Sitting next to you, does it feel weird?
Yeah. Like even last night, I just feel like extreme anxiety.
It truly is a phenomenon all by itself that so many people can have an experience in a location while so many people have no experience in the exact same location.
When I'm here tattooing by myself is when I feel like somebody or something is watching from afar. Like it's never anybody's like right behind me or anything like that, but I feel like someone or something is here and it's just coexisting.
This hallway here at 10 o'clock, there's always a shadow that passes by, and especially when I'm tattooing. In my peripheral vision, you can tell like somebody just walked up. And I look up, I'm like, nobody's there. You know, which is kind of odd.
I'll notice something out of my peripheral vision. And immediately in my mind, I'll be like, oh, I probably just saw something. Until I notice my client also looking over. And I'll double check and I'll be like, you saw that too, right? And if they confirm, what just happened?
Shadows. I see shadows a lot here. I used to see them more so when we had a false wall in the back here, and I would see them go across the wall. Now that that wall is gone, I don't really see them as often, but when I do, I see them generally in the hallway from the bathroom to the kitchen. That's where I see them the most.
I've also seen several things in this shop. I've seen people walk around corners. I've heard conversations, things move.
There was a shadow figure that had appeared behind her, and it was probably only there for a second or two and then disappeared.
And I hear movement around me all the time, and I always feel that there's kind of just someone coming around, but I always look and I never see anybody.
Nobody told me the shop was haunted. Nobody told me anything had ever happened here, that there was any kind of presence. And I remember feeling that there was something watching me. I remember turning around and I saw what looked like a 5'8" person just walk around the corner, going back from where I just came from. And I was like, oh, hey, who's that? And I go back and there's no one there.
The only thing that I ever have happen is when I go through the back room at night and the lights are off and it's dark, I definitely tend to walk a little quicker. I can't honestly say that I feel like it's paranormal. It's just more of an unease of walking through a dark room with a bunch of mannequins. But if I'm being honest, I don't want to ever say disparaging stuff about paranormal because I don't know. I haven't had anything happen, but so it could be happening, and I just, it hasn't happened to me yet. So
this was probably 2019. There was a taxidermy crocodile up front, and there was a whole bunch of Ouija boards all lined around the crocodile. It was broad daylight, and I saw the Ouija board fly off of the table and onto the ground. There was nobody around it. No doors had just closed. Seriously, in the middle of the day. And it freaked me the hell out, that's for sure.
I've heard things fall over that weren't even back here, and there was nothing big enough to make that noise.
I was in Adam's booth with him one night after a tattoo. We were breaking down, and we had the cling wrap on a paper towel holder, and we both saw it fall to the ground. And we both kind of looked at each other like, okay, so that happened.
I get weird feelings, especially when I'm alone. It's kind of one of those instinctual, like you feel like someone's like behind you or following you. The closer I get to leaving, the more something in the space around me wants me to leave. And I'll occasionally start hearing things kind of like, the occasional shuffling of feet or rustling of papers in the back. And then I'll have to remind myself, I'm the only one here.
The main shadow that I've seen that is repetitive is a really, really tall shadow. And it goes from this corner of the stage to the corner where the hallway is in the shop. I would say it was probably for real with the rune reading with John when I saw it for the first time.
I'm Father John, formerly of the Black Cat Oddities, which is located directly behind me, just through the cat's mouth. My most memorable event that I had here was one night. It was after closing time. I was in the back shop throwing the bones with one other person, and I had 2 candles burning, which I looked at as the canary in the coal mine, and I'm glad they were burning this night. When the candles started spitting, both of them equally, and I heard a noise behind me, would have been right about where the stage area is here.
I don't want to interrupt you, but did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
I don't know, but that might show up on the playback. That was like a...
Yeah, like I was like...
Yeah, I'm glad they were burning this night. When the candle...
Okay, let's pause. Being that this isn't the only voice that was caught on camera in this film, I wanted to put out there that I play the spirit telephone game the same way you guys all do. So what I hear may not necessarily be what you guys hear, and I may be completely biased on this one, but since I am talking to my father, Father John, That's exactly what I hear now that I listen back at this one in particular. But like every voice that will be on this film tonight, you can decide for yourself.
Burning this night. When the candles started, which it sounded like it was, hold on, kids, things might get real interesting. So it was just the two of us. The double doors directly behind me were open. She was looking at me the direction I'm facing right now. So she had a really good visual on the stage area. And then when we got done, I said, "What did you see?" And she described what she saw as a huge male figure stepped off the stage and then walked this direction. When all this was going on, I could hear footsteps loudly on the floor. I mean, it was, we were the only ones in the building. So it was clear as a bell. And that was the most memorable experience I had here relating to the paranormal.
And two is footsteps, man. It's weird because I know I'm the only one here with my client as I'm tattooing. Kind of like that, you know what I mean? And like close by too. Like if you were just walking past the doorway, you know? So it's not like far away or anything. Like it could be like a pipe or anything because it doesn't sound anything like that.
I was tattooing last night. My client was sitting the same way this lovely lady here was sitting, facing the opposite way. They've been the only ones here for over an hour, I would say. The music had cut off, so it was crazy quiet in here. And I just hear like footsteps, like heavy footsteps. And so I stop and I look over, and I'm like looking down the hall. And my client's like, "You heard that too, right? Like, that's definitely footsteps." And I'm like, "Well, maybe it was Miles," but and we hear Miles talking in the booth. He never had stopped tattooing, so it sounded like dress shoes. My client said funeral attire, but kind of freaky.
I had a client where it was just me, him, and then another tattooer was hanging out in my booth, and we were just quiet. I was tattooing, and then we heard this like lady voice come from like the back, and then it slowly came to like above us and stopped, and we just all like looked at each other. It was like, what the?
Plus, on the hearsay part, lots of stuff we heard that other people had experienced around here, with the doors opening on their own volition or closing, and just a lot of paranormal activity.
So you think the shop is haunted?
I do think it is haunted, yes. I don't feel that it's one entity. That's just my personal opinion.
So you think the shop is haunted?
I do think it is haunted, yes. I don't feel that it's one entity. That's just my personal opinion.
And the curtain just moved behind you.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
I think it looked like the curtain just moved.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, the air isn't on. The heat didn't kick on.
Yeah.
It's quiet.
Let's stop and look, because
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we caught it. After we stopped the camera to make sure I caught what I thought I saw, then while editing, I noticed something else that happened that neither of us even reacted to. You can hear 3 knocks come from somewhere in the room. Yep. Crazy.
Crazy. Super crazy.
That's cool. When you're in a location like this where people are constantly having experiences, you get really quick with your phone. Start catching things. You know, you want to, you tell people these things happen, and it's great to hear stories, but without evidence, you lose half the people. I like to change my environment. I need to redecorate about every 3 months. We almost got it down to a science where every 3 months I'll completely change everything. So I would go in a lot of times at nighttime and just work in there by myself. And I got kind of almost a high off of people being there during the day, and then they come back the next day and the entire place has changed. Any paranormal studies will tell you at all that when you move things around, you start doing construction, you're constantly stirring up the energy. And looking back now, that's so funny because I was doing it, well, every 3 months. At nighttime when I was doing this, I'd constantly try to go live on my phone or grab my phone. Some nights I would go live on my phone and I'd catch spirits, and people that were actively watching me live would hear the spirits. And then when you play back the video the next day, nothing. It was almost like a joke. If you were there to experience it, you got to. If you weren't, you didn't. But on occasion, I was fast enough with my phone to catch a couple of things. The doors in the hallway have always been something that people have heard close, open, move. That bathroom in particular over there had, people always had experiences in that bathroom, but one night I was able to capture what I heard. I was walking out the door, it's probably around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I hear the door rush open, so being quick with my phone, I caught this. Okay. Goosebumps. I don't know if that picked up. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm out of here. A lot of times when you have cameras, they go off after there's movement. So rarely do you catch things on those type of cameras. But when you do, it's really awesome. The funeral fan, which I have right behind me right here, was part of the tour that we had in the back called The Dark Side of the Morgue. And one night on CCTV, I caught this guy scooting across the floor on its own. This happens quick. This thing is incredibly moved to the left. Looks like about an inch or so. The thing weighs like 80 pounds. But as I kept watching the video, I noticed that the light shook, as indicated here. As if something was toying with it. But it wasn't until I edited this actual video that I noticed it moves again. I don't think we would notice it moving even if we were in the room with it. Here's where it was when the video first started. And that's where it ended up at the end of the video. We opened up that tour right before COVID. In fact, 2 days before COVID. On a Friday 13th party, we revealed it. And on the 15th of March 2020 is when the shop closed down. About a month later, my landlords came through the place to do whatever they were doing. And they opened the door to look in the salt room, and then they closed it. And right after they did that, something violently smacked the camera, as shown here. Felipe's brother one time was at the Pyre Bar long after we started converting it over, when the tour was over, and he got hit in the back slightly with a hanging glass that has flat sides, and when watching the camera it actually flips over on his back, and things like that happen all the time, which is captured here.
It's flat.
But there's no movement you made right there that would make that move.
That's what I'm telling you, and I was like this much away from it. Like this much.
How much?
This much away from it. I like literally I was that much away from it.
I find myself laughing a lot when something terrifying happens. Like, I'll just laugh about it. In particular, I had a couple nights in the shop where, although I may have laughed, I am still terrified even thinking about it. One night before the tour was open back there, I was working in the circus room that I had, and I heard some blocks fall. I had a TV going off in what was soon to become the salt room, and the TV was sitting on this shelf that we had. I heard some sounds that I knew weren't the TV, and to describe how I did it, I grabbed my phone and I started recording, but I held it like this and walked up to the door and just kind of did this and then looked back at my phone like that to try to catch it. I didn't go in there and film it like this. Okay, so we have a haunted doll called the Premonition doll. And that doll I had just sitting in a normal little rocking chair, little toy kid rocking chair. And I captured, unbelievably, as you can see, the amount of energy that would take to get a doll to rock, to not only rock the chair, but to rock her forward, where she's sitting forward in the chair like this. And what kills me about that video in particular, what still gives me the creeps today when I watch it, it isn't the fact that it's the doll rocking in the chair. It's a few seconds later I go back into the room to see it with the camera and realize that the doll has completely sat dead still, and she just lumped forward in the chair like that. Your body's one of the most amazing instruments you have, although that can get you in trouble if you're not self-aware of your situations and who you are and how you're reacting to things. That night, I felt that whatever I had experienced rocking that doll was on me. It wasn't by the doll anymore. So I don't know if it was the doll, if something moved the doll, if the doll itself is haunted, or they were just playing with a toy. I'm not sure. That's the thing about the unknown, is that it's unknown. I do remember when I went home that night, I was exhausted, completely drained. I remember being very agitated. I caught gold, according to the paranormal, but for me, I was not pleased with that. I still had to work there, you know. That wasn't, surprisingly though, that wasn't the most terrifying night that I've had at the Rue. Once again, one night where I was rearranging everything, I heard some sounds come from the back. Same old story. Well, you grab your phone and you go back to investigate. And I did. And ironically, half the time, as it always goes, right? You pull your phone out to start filming, and then nothing. You capture nothing. You hear everything without the camera going. Turn on the camera, and everybody gets shy. And that was what was happening that night. And I think that's what made this so scary for me. Is the fact that it wasn't just I caught this thing flying across the room. It was the fact that nothing else was happening. I heard something, and then I heard nothing. And then for it to come out of nowhere, it was an ultimate shock. This spoon in particular is what I'm talking about. This is an insane asylum spoon from Mansfield State Hospital. This guy was sitting on a gynecology table, and you'll see in the video here where as I'm walking through, you can see that this is sitting on the gynecology table right there. And only a couple seconds later, this happened. Are you in here? Hello? What am I missing here? I have pure goosebumps. This is the insane asylum spoon. That's not cool. That is not cool. This was in the salt. Move it again. One thing that I found later when I was watching the video that kind of freaked me out is you'll notice the door on the glass case behind it with what we call cowtell or haunted clown doll. If you look at the door, it was against the wall. After the spoon had moved, the door is now almost wedged against the gynecology table. I don't know what scares me more is did that spoon go over the wall or did it go out the door and then down the hallway? But if you look, regardless, when I turn around after I heard the crash, you can still see quickly the spoon ricocheting off the floor. I wanted to have a gothic history tour that delved into the darker side of our histories. But it slowly became, on its own accord, a supernatural type tour where half the tour ended up being in the room that we call the salt room. Now, the reason why we call it the salt room is because it was blessed with salt. And I put a ring of salt around all the items. And then when we would get an item donated or discover another one, we would put it inside the salt. The salt was never there to protect anybody. That was something that I let people just kind of run with when they did tours. It was there to give sanctuary and protection for them against us disrespecting their items. And it was all about respect. What we would do is we'd have a spirit box in there and we would allow you to talk. The spirit box would call names. But once again, when you're catching evidence and you catch such a high caliber of evidence, everything else just starts kind of paling in comparison. So the intelligence that would come through the spirit box sometimes would be downright impressive. One time I got a necklace donated to me from a gal in Ohio that she believed was cursed. It's an 1800s human skull inside the amulet. And when she sent it to me, she sent it to me in a box, like a book box. And she just didn't even look in the box. She just sent the box. So I brought the box into the studio, and the first time I ever saw the necklace, I saw on camera with the spirit box going. And this is the evidence I caught when we did that.
Here is the necklace.
Now, my son and I were the ones that were in the room while this was going on. And the thing that I find fascinating and impressive, the most impressive about this, is that not only was it one voice the entire time, but that's one voice over two different interactions. And that's one voice over many AM radio stations, frequencies going backwards.
Would you like me to place it on this glass instead? Would you like me to place it on this glass instead?
I don't know how you explain that. How many spirits are in the room? 2. And it's easy to pick out 2. So when it was actual words going over it, I actually really, that's what I was after. That's where I started talking about the caliber of evidence. Another thing that it would do a lot is called names. The power of a name is impressive. I learned that from my father. It makes sense if you're out somewhere, if you're in public at the store, and someone yells out your name, you're going to turn around. If I'm out in public and someone goes, Adam, I'm going to look, right, as you would. Someone yells Bob, I'm going to keep going. Our tour guide, Kaylee, was awesome and constantly back there. And she would be one of the ones that would go back and just talk on the spirit box. And we were in there one night and asked for her name, and I believe that we caught that. Thank you. Sounded like thank you. How many are back here right now? 7. 7.
Do you remember my name?
Did you say Kaylee?
I don't know if I was expecting it to, and so I was assuming, but it got.
It still keeps sounding like the same voice.
The thing I find kind of fascinating about that is that she actually changed her name. So she goes by Raven now, but at the time of the tours, she was Kaylee. I'll have to ask her, but to this day, if I were to yell Kaylee at her in public, I bet she'd look back. So what do? When you believe a bunch of things are attached, you just can't simply get rid of it. You don't head to the local Goodwill and just drop it off and say, better luck next time. You can't sell it. So I ended up packing up the entire location of the salt room and bringing it over to this house, which for years we just called Walter's house. We call it the salt house because of that. All the items from the salt room aren't behind salt anymore. They're freely sitting around all over the house. So in a way, for me, the salt house is kind of where this story really begins.
I moved in about early 2000s. I was working for my dad as a bail agent, and we had a dear old friend that lived in this house named Walter, and he'd lived here his entire life, never got married, never had kids, and he was very persnickety, but he would only let us come in and help him. And we took care of him till he passed away, and then he left the house to my dad, and we worked literally across the street. So I ended up coming here and staying and getting this house from my dad, and I lived here for a long time. After I first moved in, it took about a week or so before I had my first experience. It felt like something was following me, and it was always downstairs in this room right here, actually. This room was always the creepiest. This room and then the room right off of this room were the creepiest rooms to me for a long time. But then you started hearing things walking up and down the stairs or things like that. So then everybody was scared of the upstairs more than they were the down. I think I was the only one that really felt scared down here.
My first experience of the house was walking in, seeing the stairway. And that's what scared me to death. For some reason, I was never comfortable in that house with the stairs. I've heard things on the stairs. I've heard, back in the old days, you know, the little shoes the women wore, the little stocky heel? That's what got me. As soon as I heard the heels go downstairs, I knew what kind of shoe they were. Back in 1930 or something, you know. I've heard that go up and down the stairs several times.
My mom stayed downstairs in there, and one night she thought we were messing with her and shaking the doors. Somebody's just like jerking the doors, and she got all mad and opened the door, and there was nobody out here at all. So she was freaked out about that.
Yeah, Grandma called me up one night and was yelling at me, telling me, you know, stop messing with these doors. And we're like, we're not even home, you know?
My scariest time at the house, I was in my bedroom. My bedroom was just off of the dining room and the kitchen, and then the downstairs. But I was in that room, and the room had these great big, huge, tall wooden doors. Here I got wooden doors. And I mean, I'm reliving this again. Not a regular bedroom door, you know what I'm saying, just not one door. And I would shut those doors if I was home by myself. One night, I was watching TV, and these doors was shaking violently, like somebody was trying their best to get in. It wasn't locked, but they were just shaking both doors. That scared everything out of me. So that's when I called my daughter that worked nights to get home now. I wasn't moving. You know, I was just stuck right there in that bedroom, not knowing on the other side who was trying to get in or get out or whatever, you know. That was the scariest night I think I've ever spent. There.
She got tormented worse in this house than anybody, I think. Didn't like her. Didn't like Patty.
Daytime, I felt fine, except the time I took a bath and heard that. That was the first daytime thing.
Being upstairs, and it would sound like somebody came through the back door with groceries or something, had like rattling and footsteps and everything, and you'd yell and nobody would be here. That happened quite a bit in this house.
I went up there to take a bath. It was daylight, and I was in the tub, and I heard heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. And you know the bags you get from Walmart, the plastic bags? I could hear those together, you know, like you carried a bunch of bags upstairs. And I yelled out and I said, hello? Hello? No sound. So I thought, all right, they're messing with me. So I ended up getting out of the tub, drying off, looking out the window. The cars weren't home. I was in the house by myself.
Half the time when I was taking a bath, I almost had to mentally prepare myself for like a non-enjoyable experience. It's one of those fears, you being messed with while you're vulnerable. I will hear walking, like pacing sounding like back and forth in this hallway. Like something would mess with the door, and I'd ask the kids like if it were them, and they're like, no, like what are you talking about?
I guess who didn't go to the bathroom and take baths anymore. I took showers downstairs. I wouldn't go up there again. The upstairs was creepy anyway.
I just finally started thinking, oh well, it's just you guys. They don't take up much space.
First thing that I ever had happen to me here, I was 16 years old. I lived in Nebraska, so I'd come out here on vacation. And shortly after I arrived, I was downstairs and I walked in the back door and walked into the living room, and I heard Mom upstairs in the bathroom down the hall over here bathing. And I was like, Mom, man, like, hey. And she didn't respond, so I was like, what? Mom, I got louder, All of a sudden, Mom comes in the back door. She's like, who are you yelling at? I'm like, oh, I thought you were upstairs bathing. I was like, well, who's up there? And she goes, no one's up there. I'm like, I heard the loofah, or like the washcloth, I guess, at the time, and the water, and she was humming like, water drip. Tub was bone dry. She goes, it's like that here, so just kind of shrugged it off, and I think we just went on with our day.
Yeah, one day I was not even in the house, and Adam was looking up the stairs, yelling for me because he heard me up there, and it wasn't me. There was nobody up there. Every night when I would go to sleep, my door would seem like it would move a little bit. So I would open the door, and I would reach my head out and say, I'm going to sleep, have a good night. And then I'd shut the door real tight, and then I'd feel fine.
Happened all the time. And I said, who are you talking to? She said, my man that came to say goodnight to her every night. And I thought, now that's not the way I would have acted. I wouldn't have told him goodnight,
I had the art gallery here, and I paint flat anyway, so there was a pool table in that dining room, and I laid down my painting on the pool table so I could stand and paint. And one night I was standing there, like physically just painting, and I saw a woman's foot step right between my legs. It was a nude leg and a foot. I don't think I've ever turned around that fast in my entire life, and there was no one in the room.
One time we had a pool table in this room, and I remember looking up in the mirror above the fireplace, and it looked like there was a lady in a white dress standing by the door in the living room, and I looked around and there was nothing there, but that's all I ever saw of a person or anything down here.
I think I got a glimpse of somebody in that one time. I see her standing back there like she was standing watching people play pool. I don't know. Just looked like a lady with light hair. That's the only time I've seen anything.
That was the only thing that I got creeped out about, was this dining room. And if it was dark, I'd run through to the kitchen. I don't know why. That's why I always figured this was the funeral area. But I ended up just keeping a light on all the time, so it didn't feel scary anymore. But I had lights all over this house when I lived here. But yeah, I definitely didn't want to walk through this room in the dark.
Mom might be onto something with it downstairs being a little bit more active. We would experience things all over the house, but mainly upstairs. But now that I work here, I guess I just never really noticed until I'm sitting stationary tattooing somebody how active that dining room area really is. And my tattoo booth has been many things for me. Before that, it was my recording studio. It was a movie memorabilia room for a while. We also made this room our bedroom at one point, and it was very brief because we were being messed with a lot in our sleep. So we set up a camera to see if anything was going on while we slept. And the night we did, we actually caught this anomaly next to Jackie's bedside, which later on I can kind of guess the same entity that was always kind of on Jackie's bedside as opposed to my bedside. We relocated back upstairs shortly after this.
Back in the day, they would do funerals in your house, and this house has like 3 rooms that could be parlor, visiting, 4 areas really that could be. So we always figured the room off to the dining room is the one where they kept the casket at. And I don't know if that's true, but I really think it is. It's got the double doors, and then you've got another door so people could file through. I think it really was the funeral room in this house. But that was typical back then.
While we were playing there, it wasn't really that crazy. I think the only thing I can remember when we were actually playing was I always got that sulfur smell and I would be the only one, and if I remember right, we practiced in that one room. It was like that middle.
Yeah, the old funeral room.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, yeah. And he was either, my drums were in the corner or the back wall. And I always smelled that smell all the time. I'd be like, you guys smell that? And they'd be like, no. Nobody would smell it, but constantly I would smell it like all the time.
Not only have I seen things, but I've smelled things before. And specifically only in the booth. Somewhere in between rotten meat and eggs, sulfury kind of smell, but never one over the other. It's like they both meet in the middle and create this just very unique smell. But it's not a smell that lingers for even minutes. It's a smell that lingers for seconds, and then it's just kind of gone.
And that was the only thing that really happened until you bought this place and you moved out of it, and we went back to shoot the City Lights video.
Yeah.
And we shot the video in that same room, and the house was empty. We were talking about the old man that used to live there, I believe, and
Walter.
We started hearing random stuff. But what was really crazy was the next day, because we weren't, we were literally just there for a minute.
It was 9:30 in
way.
in the morning, by the way.
Yeah, early,
full-blown sunshine. Yeah, it wasn't nighttime. It was
not
something
creepy, nothing at all. And was it the kitchen door or the back door? And it just slammed. And I mean, not like a normal just slam the door. I mean, it was a slam. It was almost like you reacted to it like an explosion. Severe force that shut that door that day.
Yeah, that was extreme poltergeist.
That was wild.
This was the band room, and I would be kind of right here. That was my general spot for playing guitar. It was always cold in here in winter time. At least before all the gear got turned on. And as the hoodie would be on, I would feel that very distinctive pull on the hood of my hoodie, where just kind of feel you kind of jerk you back just slightly. And I'd feel taps on the back of the shoulder.
I want to know what the house was before Walter lived there.
Me too, Grandma. Me too. And that is why I went to the basement of the Masonic Temple. I went to the private rooms in the library. I scoured the internet. Since 1910, when they built the house, I can find no history that would indicate anything paranormal or anything that would give us any of the activity that we experience today. Oh, wait. Interesting enough, there was a book I did find that talked about a huge cemetery that was relocated over 140 years ago right in this area. And, of course, like a Hollywood plot, they left most of the bodies and, a lot of the gravestones were forgotten, used as cornerstones in people's houses or front doorsteps feel free to pause and read the page. So, there is that, Grandma.
He was a sweet old man, but he also knew about the house, I think. Because he said the upstairs always noise and things up there, always.
So he talked to you about it?
Talked to Jane about it.
He was about 90, in his 90s. He used to be a band teacher, but he was very strange. No wife, no kids. Lived here literally since he was 2 or 3 years old, little kid.
And number one, they wasn't sure that he would let me in the house. He let nobody in the house. So, but he was quite sweet, when I went in there.
I met Walter when I was a kid. When my mom would come over and take care of him, I would just sit in the car pretty much every time. But one time I was able to walk in the door and actually meet him and stuff, which I remember was a pretty big deal. And he was nice, and he just immediately asked me if I wanted to hear him play music. So he had a bunch of trumpets and instruments, and he whipped out his instruments and just started blaring some brass. That's all I really remember of him. He was a nice guy. The house was old and just an old house, I do remember newspaper articles and things taped up all over the walls and stuff, but he just kind of looked like a nice old shut-in kind of guy.
This house was known as Walter's creepy house. It was the creepy old Walter. He was mean, and Before we started taking care of him, the whole outside of the house was like gray and chipped paint. It looked like a haunted house. It looked terrible. It was definitely in its original state from 100 years ago. I think it was the original curtains.
While making this, I found out that Grandpa actually got asked to take care of Walter when he was in his late 80s. So he wasn't an old family friend. We met him at the end of his life. My grandpa is a man of great importance to a lot of people. And so when one of his good friends was passing away, he asked Grandpa to take over his estate and basically watch over Walter because he was no longer going to be here to do so. So that means we didn't know who Walter was at all for 80-something years. And one night, my grandpa came over here and he was unconscious on the floor. So, of course, he called the authorities, and firemen show up and everything. And they see the state of the house. Like, you can't live here. You're going to have to let me come in and fix the house. The bathrooms didn't work. He would take his stools and throw it out on the back porch, like into the yard. So, yeah, they just pulled the truck up to the back porch and just started chucking things. And one of the stories my grandpa shared with me is there was a bed next to Walter's bed, like a couch type futon thing. And he raised it up, and underneath was a vacuum cleaner. And Walter said, "I haven't seen that thing in 30 years. If that gives you kind of an idea, trying to paint a picture for you, the state of the house. He hadn't seen his vacuum in 30 years.
He didn't have much furniture downstairs or anything.
The house had no furnishings except his bed. I think he had a chair in there maybe.
I was 12 years old. I remember when I came in here, it was just a bunch of stacks of newspapers and stuff everywhere. That's really all I remember about when he lived here.
Just kind of stayed in this room right here.
And I think that the upstairs maybe was closed off at one point in time. Wonder why.
You always wonder why would they keep the upstairs closed off? Why would they not go up the stairs? And then when you found the kitchen, and it just felt creepy.
Let me explain. This room that I'm currently in right now, we call Nora's room because it was my daughter's room. But this room was a kitchen. There was still a calendar set up on the wall. There was a can opener up on the wall between the door jambs, a table right here. So picture in the 50s, this being made up as a kitchen, and then one day someone just closed the door and time capsuled it. 4 bedrooms upstairs and a full bath, just completely blocked off since the mid-1900s. It is a lot of house for one guy. I mean, you have the upstairs and then the downstairs, and then of course you have the basement.
That basement was creepy because it was just nothing but a dirt floor, and wasn't livable, to stay down there or anything. But yeah.
Well, I think Walter might have been, I don't know how to put it, but maybe a serial killer or something, because the way he kept the upstairs boarded up too, like he had somebody boarded up there. Why would you board up a perfectly good living area? I never met him, but what I heard, he was kind of strange.
He wanted whatever was up there to stay up there.
A lot of people say Walter was a serial killer and somehow the bodies are buried around here, or he's done something with them, but there is no evidence of that, even though he did serial killer-ish things like put up news articles on the wall.
I do remember the newspaper articles, though. Quite weird, as far as I'm concerned.
I had a habit of taping everything up. Notes, newspaper articles, whatever. Everywhere you looked in this house, there was taped up articles. It kind of reminds you, I guess, a little bit of a serial killer, but there's still remnants of tape from Walter on these that you can't get off.
I want to be clear when I say this. Walter was a war hero. He was in the 6th Infantry of World War II. He was the guy when his brothers were being shot down. He would be on the front lines pulling bodies off the field. I mean, this man has medals upon medals, which you can see here, set up here as a memorial to him. He was a respected band teacher when he was a civilian, and he lived a very quiet life, obviously, but as far as what he had done, especially for this country, I want to make no mistake that he was an absolute hero. I think where the disconnect happens between reality and fantasy with everybody, just us all trying to connect dots of why certain entities are in here. Ghosts have certain characteristics. So you just start kind of trying to form a pattern.
Me and my husband one time, he decided that there was a ghost in the basement.
Right here, this over here is something spooky underneath there.
And there was a broken part of the concrete, and you could see dirt underneath. So next thing you know, we got sledgehammers and we're down there breaking it up, trying to see if there's somebody buried.
We went about 2 or 3 inches down, and then we hit dirt, which was been normal. But then we started digging further, and we found another layer of concrete.
But we just ended up finding another layer of concrete. So.
Which ain't normal. You don't put concrete, dirt, and concrete. I'd say if you busted it up, you'd probably find bone, because when we started digging there, it got real cold down here. And then, so we got scared and was leaving, and as we was leaving, going up the stairs, this lady, if you ever seen the show Mama, looked just like her, but it was before Mama ever came out, so that didn't influence us. And that night, when I left in my car, I could feel it in my bones, something like inside me.
Over a decade ago, Jackie, Ron, and I were all in the basement taking photos, and I was sitting in a chair. In fact, the same chair that Ron is sitting in the video here. And she captured a woman standing behind me. I do not believe that this is dust pareidolia, because all photos before and after this photo were clear. If you focus in the middle of the dark shape, you can see a woman's face. And I tend to believe that this is the same woman that Ron said he saw that night in the basement.
And when I got home at night, that car started honking and stuff, and it did it for days. It'd run the battery down just honking. And the only way I could get it to go away was I opened the doors on it and told it to leave, but then I think it came back here. And the thing that went up the side of the wall there was the scariest I ever been in my life, and I've been to some pretty scary places and things. But
we stopped digging. If there is a body under there, we did not dig deep enough to get to it. And I didn't want to tear the floor up anymore. It's a historic home, after all. Walter was very opinionated, was always worried that someone of color was going to get this house. And he'd tell me, please, just make sure that they don't get it. Because somehow, I don't know, he just thought that someone of color was going to come after this house. He'd say, I'm a shut-in and that's the way I like it.
You know, people around the neighborhood used to talk about him being a creep. Just like staring at the window when they'd walk by, he'd be staring out the window at them. He definitely was a racist, extreme racist.
So picture coming by a house with shredded curtains, gray, old creepy guy standing in the window, coming on the front porch, yelling at you to get off his lawn and get away. It's like Stephen King didn't need anything else to write the perfect novel. He pretty much just gave him the plot. And then everyone's minds just kind of grew, and like a local hysteria kind of happened about this place. And I you almost wonder if that's what manifested everything, you know?
I ain't one to get scared easy. You could drop me off on a back road and I'd walk home and not be scared. Or you could drop me off in a cemetery and I'd walk through it by myself. But this house has creeped me out many a times. And I've been actually scared where I stayed up all night and didn't sleep. My first experience was the baby crying upstairs. I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard a baby crying, and I knew there wasn't no baby here. So I went downstairs, and in the dining room, the closer I got, the louder it got. And then when I got in the dining room, it was quiet. Everything went quiet. I've heard it 3 or 4 times up there. First time it freaked me out.
I'm laying in the bed and I'm trying to fall asleep and I hear a baby crying. And it doesn't sound like an older baby, it sounds like a little baby. So I get up to go see because I'm thinking maybe it's Nora. I get up, I look around, she's just sound asleep, and so I just go back into the room.
This is one of those director moments for me where up until these tapings, I thought we were the only ones that experienced a baby crying in the house. It was so vivid and so loud. It was like an actual baby in the house.
We heard a baby crying and we thought it was the neighbors. Maybe they had a baby that we didn't know about. And we went inside. We didn't think about it until the noise grew louder. And so we thought that was really weird. Maybe we left the TV on and for some reason there was a baby crying on the show. We walk into the living room and it's really loud. It's like we can feel the baby like right here. We can hear it. We can almost touch it. I've only heard the crying once, and that was the only time that I've myself seen the baby or heard the baby. But it felt like I could almost reach out and pick it up. It's how real the crying sounded. It wasn't distorted and it didn't go away as soon as you get close to it like in the movies. It was just there.
This one time my brother was down for a visit with his wife.
Yeah, about 7 years ago, we were all visiting from Texas.
And we were hanging out.
We're all sitting here watching TV.
And all of a sudden we hear the back door close, and you could tell it's the back door because there's these bells that hang on it, so I heard that jingle.
There's bells on the doorknob.
We heard someone come in the house and walk around in the kitchen.
And we heard somebody put down like a bag, and you could hear shuffling of feet.
We kind of heard like people walking around because with the wood floors you can hear all of like every step.
And we thought, well, Adam must be home now. We thought maybe he was messing with us. So we just kind of sat there listening to these noises, these bangings in the kitchen area. It just waited until he got home.
He finally showed up for about, probably I'd say 30 minutes later. And we asked him if he had come here and left. And then we hear something again. We hear like knocking in the kitchen.
When Adam finally got home, we were sitting there, and luckily the noises that we were hearing didn't stop. We decided let's do an investigation because obviously.
And Jackie's snapping pictures.
And Jackie was the only one that was recording that night on her phone.
And she was catching orbs like all around us.
I heard a noise in the kitchen.
And then we heard knocking from underneath like the kitchen where like the refrigerator is.
It sounded like someone was under the floor, hitting
like,
from
like that.
I think this is the point where we were hearing water running, and it wasn't like from the faucet. It sounded like, you know, whenever you're like you turn the sink on, you can hear the water in the walls, like the pipes.
That's when we decided to go down the basement and check it all out. We go down there and we walk around a little bit. And then as we were walking back up, I looked from the bottom of the basement to the top of the stairs. There's like a little crawl space in the middle. And then I look and I see just water pouring out right there. And I was like, dude, Adam, you have a leak.
Looking back, we all felt like the house was making noises, so we would investigate. Because after we discovered that, everything stopped. Or so we thought.
Unfortunately, that was 7 years ago. All that footage is gone. The only footage that surprisingly survived is a video that I took of myself. I set up a camera tripod, used my cell phone, wrapped hair ties around it so it was like stay put. Turned that bad boy on, and I got into bed and just let the cameras roll.
We went to bed and then woke up the next morning, and Jackie was like, dude, I have to show y'all something. The video that Jackie
one in the bed
creeped me out.
Yeah.
You know, it was my first time actually seeing
anything like that at all, where you
And
could
at
actually
first,
see.
you couldn't really tell until she zoomed in.
In this footage, to me, was this baby. A baby snuggling up to me in bed, watching television. Like you can see it just like kind of wiggle and like look up and then just get comfy and just like it like pops its head in and out. So when I felt something to my right and I looked in that direction in the video, when I look away, what I believe is the child leaving. See this bright green orb just flash one time and that was it. The interesting thing about this orb is a lot of footage that I've caught, but especially during that night, that I don't unfortunately have anymore, a green orb light was present. One thing that is very interesting about this video is that Adam and I have watched this video over and over and over again. We have shown it to people, but just recently we showed someone that we've never shown before, and it was on better equipment, so we were able to hear things that we've never in like I think it's like seven years have ever heard. In the video you could hear footsteps, which I never caught before. After discovering this, after all these years, it kind of sets a different tone for this video, especially given my feelings on this house. Almost seems as though the baby is hiding, like using me for protection. I would often see light orbs, is probably maybe the best word to describe it. And even our daughter would call them light bugs.
No, I only remember seeing light bugs, that's it. The only time I see them is in the day. That's the only time I remember seeing them.
And I'm like, what light bugs are you talking about? And it took a while for it to click in my brain that, oh, she's probably seeing the same things that I am, these orbs just.
It was a weird experience. I've always heard Adam and Jackie talking about stuff that happened, and I was kind of like, I don't know about that kind of stuff. But after that night and seeing that video, I was like, definitely got a new perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like a terrible father, and Jackie and I have spoke about it a few amount of times. We just feel like terrible parents. Mainly for Nora, I would say for myself, that this was her bedroom. It just seemed easier. My brother's kid lived with my mom, and this was her room. So when we moved in, it was like, yeah, take your cousin's room. It's already a girly room. It makes sense. But being that this is the most active room in the house, with this little door behind me here, we never talked to Nora about anything supernatural here. Occurrences would happen with CJ. He was older, and he would bring it to us and we would kind of talk, but I always kind of like downplayed everything too, because they're your kids. But I mean, now we're just left with like terrible stories and Like the night that CJ saw Nora get up out of the room here and go use the restroom, and he was waiting on her the whole time.
I see the girl walk to the bathroom. Of course, convenient timing. I need to go to the bathroom too. And I wait for her for what seems like 10 minutes, which she usually doesn't take this long. So, me needing to go to the bathroom and running out of patience, I walk into the hallway and I don't open the door completely. I just kind of like crack it open and I talk to her through the crack. And I say, "Girl, I need to use the bathroom, hurry up." And I don't hear a response. She just wasn't in there. So I think that maybe she snuck back in her room when I closed my eyes to wait. That had to be it. So I check in Nora's bedroom to see if she actually got up. And as I check in Nora's bedroom, the wooden door in Nora's room, there was a woman. Like, I can't explain it, just a woman. All I saw was black, but I could tell it was a woman. She had a dress on, and she was just standing there in the corner. And Nora's bed was opposite of the doorway on the corner as well. And I feel bad for doing this, but I was afraid. I kind of just backed out of the room, and I left Nora in there, and I went to bed. But it scared me. It was a full body. It was the body of a woman. And I couldn't explain it. I was in 6th grade, I'd say about 11, 12. And I feel bad for leaving Nora in there, but I did. And so I hid and ran away. Getting shaken up. I hate that story.
You what?
I hate that story. Oh, it's scary, dude. It scares the hell out of me.
It's like still?
Yeah, no, it shakes me up.
Nora had an experience of seeing the tall woman in a black dress.
I actually I didn't know that.
Well, no one knew until her interview.
Well, I haven't seen that yet, so I can't wait to see that.
In that door, it always creeped me out because I never knew what was in there. Like, I didn't know if it was like imagination, but I would see it every day. So I don't think it's an imagination. I looked in there multiple times. Every time I looked in there, I would see a lady in a wedding dress, but it's all black. And it doesn't have the thing that goes over your face at all. And then sometimes I would see a kid in his bedroom. Sometimes I would see it in his bedroom. Sometimes I just see the bedroom. It does not make me believe that I'm imagining that because it looked way too real. Like, the bedroom looked really real. The lady in all black, it's like a shadow lady, looked so real to me. Like, it was an actual lady that her whole entire body, it was like a spray paint black all over her. The only thing I hear in that room is giggling or breathing. From when the lady's there, I hear breathing, but when I see the kid in there, in the bedroom, I hear giggling. But when the kid's not in there, all I hear is breathe. So I woke up from the kid giggling really loudly. I don't know if you heard it, or a brother heard it, or a mom heard it, but I heard loud giggling.
I want to reiterate that we never talked to Nora about any of this at all. Let me display the background for you guys here. I'm standing in her bedroom that she currently has now. I put a teddy bear on a chair, and I was like, just talk to the bear, sweetheart, you know? And I just started asking her questions. Until this taping, I mean, I can't even tell you how terrifying it was. I mean, thank God she was talking to the bear and not me, because I think she would have saw how scared I was as she's telling these terribly creepy things that happened in this room with a woman with a nice big long black dress. And Jesus.
So I was in my bedroom, and the lady was talking to me, and she was like, come in here. Come on, just come in here. And I freaked out because the lady hasn't spoke to me at all. I never heard her voice. Her voice was deep. Really deep. You know how people like drop their voice and they sound really like their voice is like really deep like that? Her voice was like that.
That was the first time she ever talked to you?
Yes, it was the first time she ever talked to me. She tried to get me in the little tiny door.
It's the room we call the creepy room because it's got this little attic door, and if it opens, it seems like things get worse. So we always kept it closed with a bookcase or something over the front of it. But that room had a can opener on the door jamb, and it just had this weird feeling. The kitchen room that ended up being my granddaughter's room, and then my next granddaughter's room. But we kept the door closed. Nothing would come out. But if somebody opened that door a little bit, it seemed like people were saying they saw stuff and heard stuff. So I don't know. But there's nothing in there either because we left. We did look in that door.
When they used to play in the bedroom and stuff, was that just your bedroom they were playing in?
No, they were playing in their bedroom.
What was... I'm confused. What other room? Like Christian's room across the hall, or?
Not Christian's room. The room that was in the little tiny door. Yeah, the little door where I saw the lady, like, and the light stuff were. Yeah, there was another bedroom inside there. She was trying to get me in there and, like, kidnap me, basically.
Through the little door?
Yes. There's, like, the little crack at the bottom. I would look at the crack at the bottom. When I looked through the door like that, I would see them. I would see the lady separate and the boy separate. They were never together, though. They never saw each other, because the boy would come first in the bedroom, and then the next day you wouldn't see him in the bedroom. Then the next day it was just the lady. I couldn't get in there, and I did not want to get in there, because she scared me, and I knew I was not allowed to go in there, so I would never go in there.
Did you ever see the door open and close in your bedroom?
No, I saw the doorknob like twist sometimes. Sometimes the lady would try to twist the doorknob to get out. When I see this, I would see it. I would see it when I woke up from her breathing, because her breathing was like really heavy. And I looked at the door, and I saw her dress, and then I looked up, and I saw her like body, and she was like this, just twisting the doorknob, but you couldn't see her face. It was just her twisting the doorknob really violently. I didn't want to deal with it, because I knew you guys probably didn't see her. I thought I was the only one that would see these things. But then you guys saw stuff too, so I felt relieved that I wasn't just me.
When it came time for me to actually make this film, originally I was going to do theatrics and hire actors to come in and reenact and portray certain spirits we see in the house and things like that. And right when we did, this happened. I stopped the camera right away. I don't know if I could.
I think it's upset that we just did that.
Looking back now, it's obvious we provoked it. We were mocking it, and we agitated it, and the feeling in the room definitely reflected that emotion. And that's why this film has no theatrics.
I knew that the upstairs was bad from the very beginning. You go up upstairs, I hated it up there. Totally hated it.
The reason why we were trying to film that theatric is actually because I've caught this on camera before. Painting my daughter's room in my house purple, obviously. And that, if anyone knows anything, this is the most haunted room in the house. Sorry about the mess. We obviously took everything out of this room, but
my grandson was at one of the little kid tables in the living room area right by the staircase. He started crying one day, and I said, "What is wrong with you?" And he said, "The lady on the stairs said shh." We're like, great.
I've asked CJ throughout the years if he remembered the woman saying shh He doesn't, but he does remember the African American woman on the steps. But we both have seen her multiple times. She always seems to be in the same spot on the lower platform of the stairs, peeping around the corner and just kind of smiling at you. And then like looking at you and just staring at you until you notice her. And about the time you notice, I have goosebumps. About the time you notice her, she's gone, you know? But she's very vivid, and I've seen her a dozen times at least over the years.
I have seen the woman on the steps. I was watching TV after my dad left for work, and I hear creaking on the steps. And I think that Nora or Mom has woken up. So I look up, and there's a face, and it's a dark woman. Her eyes are kind of just white, like just white. She's wearing something white, but I can't see exactly what she's wearing. I'm only seeing her head, and she just kind of had like a not a grin, but she was smirking in a way. It was just it happened so fast. It was something where I looked back, and then I looked again, and she was gone. But I remember very vividly, it was a dark woman, sunken eyes, but they were white, and she was wearing a white dress, and her hair was kind of frizzy, like an afro, but more so long and unkept.
Yeah, she's definitely one of those roommates, man, that you just kind of know. It would be freaky even if you were standing around the corner looking at us, smiling, and you got us, you know, like, damn it, stop, I'm trying to watch TV, you know what I mean? It was scary, you know, in that kind of way, not like, oh, it's a spirit. It was like somebody scared you by standing there. It's just strange. That's right where the steps were blocked off. I mean, right there, and that's where she was. And given, like I said, to beat the dead horse, the history of the house, she doesn't make any sense being here at all, because nobody died in the house. Walter didn't even pass away in the house.
He didn't die in the house. He got sick and was laying over on the floor one day we came in, and he wouldn't get up. And we took him to the hospital, and he ended up in a nursing home to get better, and he passed away while he was there. So.
One time I think we caught Walter's voice here on camera. I actually didn't hear it, but luckily it came through. I was showing my brother the doll rocking in the chair from the rue morgue. I think he was helping me move around one day, and he spotted one of the skeletons, and he was like, is this thing real? And I was like, oh yeah, dude, everything in here is legit. And he was like, what am I in, you know?
My brother was trying to show me this video of supernatural things, of a doll, I believe. While we were looking at the video, a cry for help came from the vent.
That's that doll. She's upstairs.
You hear that, dude? You heard that? It said, someone said help. Swear to God, bro.
From the basement?
It doesn't sound like it came from right here. It said help.
Love you, bro. You okay?
And while we were standing outside, I looked up at the window, which used to be my bedroom when I lived here years ago, and there was a figure standing in the window. I could see it clearly. It was just like a dark figure, outline of somebody standing there clearly in the window staring at us. Because I felt like somebody was staring at us. That's why I looked up there, because I felt like it was coming from that direction.
And you for sure think it came from the vent behind you?
I know for a fact it came from the vent behind me in the floor. And my mom was telling me that in that exact spot is where they found Walter.
He got sick and was laying over on the floor one day we came in, and he wouldn't get up.
But I believe that he was the one that called for help. It sounded just like him. It sounded just like his voice saying help.
You right?
Yeah, I was standing here at the car door, and I looked up there, and I seen a figure, or not a figure, but a shadow on the wall right there by that picture. And this is the same window that I seen the figure standing in right there.
The little window.
The little window, yes. And the big window right here where you see the top of that picture, I just seen a shadow. And then that's when I went inside and checked, and you guys were all downstairs still. Nobody had went upstairs. And that's my old bedroom. That's my old room that I used to live in. My bed actually was right there against that window. I've never had any kind of experiences here at all as a kid growing up. Grandma said that she's seen multiple things. My mom, people standing on the stairs. I've never experienced anything till now. It's freaking me out. I don't even want to come back here.
I do have a couple clients that refuse to get tattooed here. And they've never even stepped foot on grass here. It's just the little bit, I guess, that's even been like talked about, because they don't even know everything that has happened here between you living here and your mom living here and the non-living here. I mean, things that happened here when you didn't even live here for years, you know. They don't even know that stuff. They just hear the ghost stories and they don't want to come.
The room more to me was way darker aesthetically.
Oh, for sure.
But this is why I didn't tell people the room was haunted like it was so publicly.
Right.
For that reason.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there were even people that didn't want to come to the room work at one point, right? Especially after like the museum. I think sometimes you just know. I think that's just the energy in everybody. Like you just feel like something's off. But some people are like, no thanks. It's too off for me.
A lot of my clients have had things happen here, and what concerns me though is the amount of physical touch that's been happening in this place. And it seems like that's getting more with some of the newer items I brought in. I've acquired some items in here that are pretty dark. And since that's happened, it seems like touch has been more of a thing. I was closing the door one day and something violently shoved the door and slammed my hand in the door jamb. And I mean, if I didn't have my ring on, it would have probably broke my fingers. That's how hard the door slammed. I don't remember what we were doing in here when that happened, but most likely trying to film or provoke.
This hurts something. What? Sound like a mum.
Just now?
Yeah.
Up across this mirror, just see a black and gray mist just go from standing here right to left and then out of the picture. Look back at the TV to see if maybe it was the TV, and I don't think the TV could have done what I was seeing. Just from right to left, just the whole mirror went black, gray to regular. Yeah, it looked like somebody just walked across. I mean,
so we're getting here, getting tattooed. Some bang happened on this desk, but nothing is. It shook the room. And it was a loud sound. Jolted at him. We took a break because of it. So
we were sitting in the chair while you were working on my arm, and it felt like something just grabbed this side of my leg and just like slowly was pulling up the side of my thigh, and it got really cold. Like 4 individual fingers just raking up the side of my leg.
Like how long did it take?
Like 15, 20 seconds. It just kept going until it finally just pulled away. Something just growled in between us as we were just talking about something touching my leg. And I
you
thought
said
it was you just talking with me.
Where'd you think it came from, though?
Out of the vents.
You know what? I wonder if it's on the camera in there. Let me check. Yeah, it's crazy.
Cool. Yeah. Just basically doing like a. Did you just hear that? Cool. Sweet. Yeah. Just basically doing like a. Sweet. Yeah. Just basically doing like a.
Yeah, when I turned back and heard the noise, I have no clue or remembrance of turning around. Like my body just pulled backwards, and I don't know why I ever looked back.
Tattoo in a house gives me goosebumps randomly. Like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
You just get them?
Yeah.
Yeah, something came through.
Yeah.
No shit. It's active.
Yeah,
in here.
dude. Cool that something came through. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been getting touched a lot lately too.
Yeah, it felt like somebody was pulling my hair.
Oh really?
When we were in that room, it felt like somebody, like I kept going on my toes and like.
I don't know, maybe got pushed out.
Well, that's. I mean,
It's weird.
Can I film you real quick?
yeah, absolutely.
Is it can? Yeah. Like here's the
There it
experience.
is again.
What's going on?
They're like pulling at my hair. Somebody is. I don't know who it is. Something. It is, honestly.
I believe you, man. That's
Well, we both got goosebumps a second ago,
Yeah.
which is what brought this up. And there's a camera right there.
Yep.
So I'll pull that footage up. But you said you were upstairs,
Like rocking back and forth. I wasn't trying to push me forward.
so you felt like something was behind you, like.
Yeah, but it was more like I was just falling forward. But something was doing something. I mean, it was, yeah. It didn't feel like a push. It just felt like my equilibrium went out the window and I
Well,
was,
and then as you're walking down the steps here.
yeah, I
you-
basically
you-
fell off the left step.
Yeah.
Just completely missed it.
Did you
Completely missed
now?
it.
Do you think that was you just falling out the steps, or did you feel like anything was?
Yeah.
Oh, careful, dude.
Good. Sorry.
okay?
Yeah. Thinking back, yeah, I think it's that's just not normal. Yeah, that was.
Oh.
Something was weird. Yeah, that was.
Oh.
Something was weird.
Did you hear him? Do you hear the steps?
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, so what do you think?
it's the real. I mean, it's wicked. Yeah.
And you've been here now twice.
I have. Yeah.
And have you had any experiences?
With the clown over there, the clown is very weird. And then upstairs in that third bedroom there, you got weird chills and vibes in there.
Which one? Do you mind?
The kids' room.
The pink one?
Yep, the pink one. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then the clown, like I said down here, I get really weird vibes from him, man. Like he's just talking to me or looking at me or I don't know.
You want to hug him?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Was it the kitchen door or the back door? And it just slammed. And I mean, not like not like a normal just slam the door. I mean, it was a slam.
It's typical to come in the room after you hear things fall, see things on the ground like this, review the footage. Sometimes you get lucky and catch it. Sometimes you don't see anything. I put this one in the documentary because of the way that they fell, one by one. And then if you look closely next to Walter's jacket that was displayed right there, the chain is moving on the light fixture. And then also, Walter has these bird whistles. When I walked in the room, I heard a bird whistle.
Ooh, don't feel good. Feel very nauseous. Like I'm like nauseous.
Were you okay?
Yeah, but like I'm like nauseated. Like bad. I've had quite a few experiences here. I've definitely heard footsteps up and down the stairs, specifically up and down. One of the experiences that I had was when I was coming up the stairs to get paper towels. I was like looking down because I'm clumsy. As I was coming up, I like lifted my head up and I saw a black figure, a shadow, but not a shadow. You couldn't see through it. It wasn't transparent in any kind of way. It was just a black figure there. I kind of jumped back, like, gotta fight it, and it was just gone, like a light switch, just off. I've heard a woman specifically say hello twice and multiple times in that sitting.
You're very welcome, of course.
picture. Do you like it?
Obviously, Shelby didn't come out of the room and look around for us, but I like that she did that because it indicates to us that she did hear it come from that room outside of the booth, outside of where the TV is playing and her client is, and that's validating for us for her origin of the voice. I can't quite make out what this other one is trying to say or hum, but it sounds like it has the same tone as the first one, indicating it's the same entity, which lines up with Shelby's personal experience.
One of the first ones was with you when the Ouija board that had been up there for 10 years or something had just fallen off the wall randomly. And that was before we opened. I think that was like the day before we opened.
There has to be movement for the Ring camera to be set off. And months before this, something came through the room and you can actually see the shift. The chairs move, some items move, and the door slams. But it happened so fast that we weren't actually able to capture what made everything move. But definitely something ran through the room. And the reason why I bring this clip up is even in this clip, you can see the Ouija board was on the wall there.
Yeah, the house is just too heavy. And the best way to explain it is just that there's a constant weight of emotion on me. That's the best way that I can explain it. I just feel sad here all the time.
It's a scary place when you sit around and just listen to it. It talks to you and tells you stories.
I don't care what time of year it is. I don't care what's going on. You always have that bad vibe that you're not ever alone in that house. I don't care if there's 1,000 people in there. There's still something there that you don't want to go into it unless you've got somebody with you. You know, you just don't want to do it.
I miss the house because I lived in there basically my whole entire life.
I love this house. I really do. But I don't love the factor of that you're not alone in this house. You're not the only people in the house. There's always someone here watching you, and it's draining, really. I'm glad we moved out of the house, for sure.
I think this place is haunted. I think the items in here are haunted. I think there's a whole other level of haunted. And I think haunted kind of cheapens it because it's more than that. Like, it's more than just like a haunting. It's like a whole ecosystem of life in here. Beyond life. That's the best way I can explain that.
Oh, so the downstairs bathroom had a door from the half bath to the basement to go down there. That's where the basement was at. The door, I'd always shut it if it was to a little bit, you know. Make sure it's shut tight because that always gave me the creeps, that and the stairs. I went to the bathroom, went to the kitchen, done things around the house, go back and clean up the bathroom, straighten the bathroom up or do something. The door was always wide open. So after about the third or fourth time shutting it, it's when I called somebody, I think, and told them about that door would not stay shut.
The only incident that I had where I heard something was leaving the band room to go throw away a piece of garbage. The trash can was right next to the bathroom. And as I was throwing it away, the bathroom was to my left and the door was open. And right as I threw it away, I heard, "Hello?" And it was very audibly from that bathroom. It's like, ugh. Like, I instantly just got the chills from it. And just, you know, as we would do and whenever there was a kind of incident like that, you just kind of back up, pretend like it didn't happen, and just go about your business. Pick up a guitar and go into practice. So.
When I was in the downstairs bathroom washing my hands, I walked out and I saw a water ball. It wasn't filled with water, but it was rolling on the ground. I looked at it, I put it on the counter, and walked away.
It isn't the first house I went into that I turned around and went back out.
What I believe is it has to be evil spirits or demons that are haunting this house. I don't believe it could be dead people. I just don't believe it.
Which is creepy enough, I'm sorry. If you're going to live in a big house like that, you don't want the big wooden doors slamming shut and somebody trying to get in. You don't want to go to the kitchen and get anything. You don't want to go to the bathroom. You don't want to do anything but sit right there and freeze until somebody comes home. That saves you. I mean, seriously, it had me scared the whole time there. I hated it. I really did. I hated it.
I've had a lot of time, given all the roadblocks this film gave me while making it, to really think about how I wanted to end the film. So in closure, I've obtained the obituary that Walter wrote himself in 1998, in which he states something I find unique that I've never seen in any other obituary. He wrote, "As no one can predict the evil day or hour." And he goes on to write, "The way things are going, when the odd man upstairs is ready for me, I'm ready to go." The odd man. He even put it in quotations. I mean, surely he meant old, right? Hold up. Would this really be a stoner production without at least one F word? I may have censored this entire film, but I will not, and I repeat, I will not censor the dead.
Do you know her name? Do you know her name?